Bez pochyby potrebujeme Juraj, Slafkovsky, gól!
Krásne trafil, lebo krásny blafák potiahol do strany.
Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we need to talk about Montreal Canadiens GM Kent Hughes and how he is rebuilding the Habs to become a true contender down the line. Now, with only 7 months in his tenure as Habs GM, Kent Hughes has done so much and so much right so far, but what are the biggest moves that he's made and how is he building this Montreal Canadiens future and how bright is the future for the Habs? Watch till the end for the complete analysis and all of the projections and prospect talk, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new. 50% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you like hockey content, this channel is the place to be. But another reason why I'm making this video is because I want to show you guys firsthand why I believe so much in this Habs future, specifically with Kent Hughes and the moves that he has made already in his time as Habs GM. And again, looking at it from the Montreal Gazette, their article on January 19th with the Canadiens naming Kent Hughes as their new GM only 7 months ago. And already this Habs franchise has been completely turned on its head and for the better. This Habs future is looking incredible, and you just consider the situation. Kent Hughes was a player agent for more than 25 years. It was a big risk to take, and for this Habs team, letting go of Marc Bergevin right after the Cup final appearance, it puts a lot of pressure on Kent Hughes to not just leave his former job and go to a completely new position, not just going to a market like Montreal, one of the biggest in the entire NHL, but to have all those things happen and already do such a different job with things and make it work. So far, I think Kent Hughes has done a masterful job and is setting up this Habs team so nicely for the future. But in my opinion, getting rid of Marc Bergevin, completely cleaning house and adding people like Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes is going to become one of the better moves the Habs have made over the last couple of decades, and especially what Kent Hughes has done, I think you'll see why. And to me, one of the best decisions that Kent Hughes made was fully going in the rebuilding direction, something that Marc Bergevin kind of dipped his feet into but didn't fully go into and didn't fully commit to. With Kent Hughes, though, a much better direction and a much better youthful direction is exactly where this Habs team needed to head and is going to head. You've seen the first ever big trade that he made, sending off Tyler Toffoli to the Calgary Flames, which, considering how good Toffoli had been for this Habs roster for such a long time, is a bold move to make, but it showed that he needed to make the correct business decisions to get this Habs roster in a good place. And you see the return package. You get Tyler Pitlick, Emil Henneman, solid forward prospect, but the big part of this trade is the 2022 first round pick, which would eventually turn into Philip Machar. And I'm a huge fan of Machar's game, especially in the Habs system. I think he's absolutely going to thrive, even though there definitely will be some more muscle he needs to add and maybe some more quickness and tight. He's still a player that loves to get in those good areas, has a great mind for the game, and the slickness and the skill he has with his stick is phenomenal. He's a guy that could top off as a top 6 player and be a fundamental part of the Habs forward group, and that's a player that he acquired in the first ever trade he made. But this was truly the start of when I knew that Kent Hughes was going to be a legendary GM. You see in his second big trade, going and getting Ben Chiarot to the Florida Panthers in another huge deal for this Habs roster. Ben Chiarot was a major contender to possibly get extended, and I think he would have gotten extended if Marc Bergevin was still GM. But you see him again going out and even putting on some salary retention to make the deal happen, and you see the return. Ty Splenich, another solid forward prospect added, and more depth onto the wings for the future. But of course, that 2023 first round pick is what is most important here. With Florida having big question marks, especially with the head coaching situation with Paul Maurice there, even though I do think the Panthers will make the playoffs, I don't think it's a for sure 100% thing. And again, considering how good the 2023 draft is, if you can get a pick inside the top 15, 11 to 15 range for the Habs, that would make this trade already great into maybe one of the best they've ever made. And of course, another big trade he made on trade deadline day was giving up Arturi Lehkonen, who ended up winning the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. Definitely a tough break, but considering what the Habs got back, Justin Barron, who will be a really interesting power play, maybe even middle six guy for the Habs in the future, and a second round pick on top of that for 2024. Although looking back, it might not have been the best value, still, he was able to get good quality and quantity with the Ben Sherratt trade on top of it. And then you got the Brett Kulak trade. And here's the thing, I think Brett Kulak would be still a great player to have for this Habs roster, but considering what they got back in the deal, it's really all that matters, and they were able to make so much of it. The Oilers, of course, getting Brett Kulak, but you look at what they got instead. They got a 2022 second round pick, which ended up becoming Lane Hutson. And you guys know how much I loved Lane Hutson way even before he got drafted. To me, he was a player that was, at least in my opinion, a mid-second rounder, should have been an early second rounder in my opinion, maybe even rushing up to the start of the first. And considering his tools, his fundamental ability, and his really amazing playmaking ability, he's a guy that I could see being an efficient, collected, albeit smaller, middle six power play player, and getting that in exchange is unbelievable. And you also do get a 7th round pick on top of that, and Legason, who they ended up getting rid of anyways. But considering they got Lane Hutson for Brett Kulak, that was an absolute win of a trade as well. Also, going back up to the trades, getting Evgeny Dadonov for Shea Weber's contract is unbelievable, and I think we will likely see Evgeny Dadonov traded for more assets along trade deadline time, especially with the Habs maybe having some flexibility, maybe keeping some salary retention there. I could see Dadonov getting maybe a couple of picks at trade deadline time, and again, another trade that benefits the Habs long term in so many ways. And of course, you got the flurry of moves that happened on draft day, where you ended up getting the 1st round pick from the Islanders in exchange for Romanov and a 4th round pick, which is an unbelievable trade by itself. Even though I do like Isaiah George, the fact they were able to just get a 1st rounder, a 13th overall pick for Romanov and a 4th is unbelievable value, especially considering that, of course, Romanov was an early 2nd when he was drafted in 2018. But you see, of course, the trade they ended up making with the Blackhawks, where they sent 13th and 66th overall to get Kirby Dach. And the jury is still out. Kirby Dach really did not perform in Chicago, but the tools and the flexibility is still there. And considering his size and the skill combo he has, he could be a player that in a new situation like Montreal could do so much there and so much damage long term. And considering how much the Habs are building, especially with their wing core right now, I could see Kirby Dach thriving in Montreal and making this trade look silly. And then you got the Jeff Petrie trade, which the jury is also still out on this one. We'll see how Mike Matheson performs, but considering how good he was with Pittsburgh in 2022, if he continues that play, he could be a really interesting player, and maybe even better than Jeff Petrie going into next season. And you also do save quite a bit of cap, which helped them on their very next trade. And I wasn't able to make a video on this because I was on vacation, but they ended up making just the deal of the century. Ken Hughes has already made a lot of good trades, a lot of good deals, but he was seriously on one for this one, with the Calgary Flames getting future considerations and the Habs getting Sean Monahan and a 2025 1st round pick. Now, obviously, it's conditional, and there's tons of conditions on that, but here's the thing. Just getting Sean Monahan by himself, he could retire tomorrow, and this would still be an absolute steal of a deal. And this is where the cap space comes in, because there's been a lot of fluctuation over whether the Habs have any cap space at all throughout this year, but you see getting that little bit of cap space in the Mike Matheson deal has already paid off, and you do acquire the full contract, 6.3 for Sean Monahan, but he's a player, although I do think is still a little bit washed, is a guy I think can contribute in a new situation, but even getting a pick on top of that would have been good. But a 1st round pick, even though the conditions are there, it is unbelievable what Kent Hughes has been able to do in such a short order. 7 months as GM, and he's already acquired so much youthful talent, so many high-end picks, and so much talent for the future. But just look at their pick situation. You see in 2023, you got 2 1st round picks there, of course, with the Florida pick. You got 3 4th round picks. You got 2 5th round picks. You got a pretty standard set in the 2024 draft, but in 2025, you do have that conditional 1st, which does come around quite a bit. But just the pick situation by itself, again, they already have a solid prospect pool, but are building so well. And I have a great feeling, almost an 100% feeling, that by the time next year's trade deadline is over, that 2023 draft cupboard is going to look even more stocked with draft picks. And the thing is, even though Ken Hughes Hughes has gone pretty scorched earth with some of the decisions, he still has a lot of guys he could end up getting rid of. You've got Evgeny Dadonov again, who I think is a for sure bet to get dealt next year at $5 million. I might find no trade clause, but I don't think that's going to really matter too much. I think under Montreal's system with a ton of time on ice potential, I think Dadonov is going to do quite well and will get a lot of interest come trade deadline time. You got other players who they didn't even trade who were heavily rumored to get dealt in Mike Hoffman, Christian Dvorak, and I think especially considering them bringing on Kirby Dach, it makes Dvorak's position a lot less needed. And I feel like come trade deadline time, those two guys could be gone as well. There was, of course, the Josh Anderson trade rumors, and you go on to the defense where, although I don't think we'll see too many moves this next year, you just look at everything combined, and to me, I don't think the Habs are nearly done with the moves they're going to make and nearly done with the picks they're going to bring in. And looking at what the Habs have for the future, I think they're really well developed in a lot of key areas. I don't think they have one position where they're overtly strong in necessarily compared to others, but they just got a lot of depth in every single position. You have the centers under 25, which to me might be maybe the most stacked group out of anything. You got Nick Suzuki, Kirby Dach, Owen Beck, Riley Kidney, Oliver Kapanen, Jan Mysak if you want to have him there, Vincent Rower if you want to have him there. There will be a lot of options, but if they need centermen, they'll have a lot of guys that can step up to the plate and be good on both sides of the ice, especially with Nick Suzuki hopefully continuing to develop his defensive game. Players like Owen Beck bringing such a smart element to the game. I think their center position is going to be amazing, and especially in just a couple of years, I think they'll have so much depth to choose from there. And you also got the wingers under 25. You got Cole Caufield and Juraj Slafkovsky, two amazing guys to build around. You got Josh Wawa, you got Philip Machar, Emil Henneman, Sean Farrell, who's extremely underrated. You got Jesse Yelnin, Luke Tuck, and a lot of great guys with a lot of different traits. You got players like Cole Caufield who can score, who can be fast, who can be in such an accelerating game. You got players like Juraj Slafkovsky who can bring great size and also great skating to the game. You got players like Philip Machar who can be so agile. Players like Sean Farrell who can be so dynamic and push play incredibly well. And overall, I think their forward side of things is going to look better after the 2023 draft, but already it's looking great on both sides. And especially again with the center position, I think they're going to be pretty stacked there. And then you go on to the defense. So many options in the future. So many guys under 25 that will factor into this Habs decor. You got Kaiden Guhle and Lane Hutson as the two big guys in my opinion. Guys that bring much different traits to the game, but very important things. You got Kaiden Guhle with the more physical, more robust defensive game, while Lane Hutson brings great play pushing and a guy that's just fearless all the time on the ice. But you got players like Jordan Harris, Justin Barrett, Matthias Norlander, Jaden Struble, a lot of guys to mention there, but a lot of players who I think will be NHL defensemen, and in the case of players like Guhle, Hutson, and Harris, really good ones too. Now on the goalie side of things, there's a lot of question marks. I mean, Caden Primo got a lot of games last year. He was pretty horrible, but I do think we do forget that he's 23 still and still developing. He could still be something, but you also do got, in my opinion, one of the more underrated goaltending prospects out there in Jacob Dobesch, who has been absolutely unbelievable in the NCAA, and I think got a .934 save percentage this last year at age 21, looking like a pretty interesting project. So although I do think they might still need a bona fide starter for the future, they do still got guys there, but considering how strong all the other positions are, I don't think it's too much of a worry right now. But that's just the thing. You look at the players they've drafted, the prospects they've accumulated, and we are not even close to being done with this Habs roster. To me, I think Ken Hughes could honestly, maybe not tank, but be in the dumps for 2023, maybe 2024. I think 2025 is when we'll really start to see the Habs truly wanting to contend again. But to me, having a 3-year window where you're getting top 5 picks is exactly what this Habs team needs. And I don't think Ken Hughes and the Habs are really doing anything else besides that. They're not trying to add players. They're not trying to be still competitive. We know what they're trying to be. We know what they're trying to get. They're trying to get Connor Bedard, a top 5 pick, something high end in the 2023 draft. And to me, I think the Habs picked a perfect time to be one of the worst teams in the league. The 2023 draft is looking monumental. One of the best top end drafts we've seen in a long time. Obviously, Connor Bedard is a part of that, but players like Adam Fantilli, Matvei, Michkov, Dalibor Dvorsky, whatever you need, the 2023 draft seems to have you covered. And considering how good the Habs prospect pool is already, imagine they add a player like Connor Bedard. It would make that franchise, this Habs Habs franchise into, I think, a powerhouse in just a couple years' time. And then you got the 2024 draft, which is looking pretty good for defensemen, and I think that could also help the Habs too. Overall, I just look at everything with this Habs roster and have so much optimism and look back to the move that was made on January 19th, or January 18th, whatever it was, 7 months ago, to hire Kent Hughes as general manager. I don't think there's many GMs I've ever seen that have done as much as Kent Hughes has in 7 months. It is unbelievable to see how he's turned the entire mood of this Habs franchise and really turn a team that kind of had no direction after the Cup final into a team that will hopefully be back in the playoff race in a couple years' time, and when they are in the playoff race, really start to show how good they can be. And I think one thing with Kent Hughes that I've been so impressed by is just how calculated everything is. It seems like there's a definite plan in place here, and I do hope as well with Kent Hughes that we will see a team that he builds not really rush things. I feel like we'll see Kent Hughes be down in the dumps these next couple of years, getting top 5, getting top 3 picks, and really building the right way. If you can get fantastic prospects in the draft and develop them like they have with Montreal, especially recently, I think the Habs are in a great track for success. And if this current management group continues to make the trades and deals that they've done already and continue that type of momentum, I think this Habs team could be really scary in 2024 and especially 2025. But that is how I think Kent Hughes is rebuilding this Habs team into something special. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about Kent Hughes' time so far as Habs GM. Are you convinced? Are you not convinced? Do you still want to see more trades? Who do you think the Habs should get rid of? And how do you think the Habs are building? Do you think they can be a Cup contender? How far are they away from the playoffs? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Of course, share this video with your friends. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. And click on this card for all of my hockey rankings content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.